Hello, everyone. This is Andrew from Auto Off Topic. The coloring contest is back, and now it's been improved thanks to Frank Eck. The contest is simple. Complete one of the pages in any of three mediums. This includes electronic using any of the paint type programs, colored pencil, marker, and or crayon, with one entry counted per medium per person. So each individual can have a total of 3 entries. There will also be 2 age groups, age 15 and below, and 16 on up. Links to the coloring book pages can be found on our Facebook page or the page for the coloring book contest. Facebook.com/AOTP Contest 2017. Electronic entries, including scanned entries, can be sent to us via email, autoofftopic@gmail.com. Paper copies can be sent by snail mail to Auto Off Topic Podcast, P.O. Box 35, Georgetown, Mass. 01833. Note, all hard copies received will not be returned. Period. The contest runs through November 30th. The companies and owners groups donating prizes are Mitsubishi Motors North America, Adventure Driven Design, Force Performance, Palladian Trucks, Northeast Mitsubishi 4x4, Mitsubishi Montero Owners Group USA, Florida Mitsubishi 4x4, and Mitsu Nation. All right, on to the show.
I got it on my phone. I got it back up here. We're good to go.
All right, no problem.
So we're ready to start recording this wonderful episode, Andrew, so we can welcome all of our listeners to episode 43 of Auto Off Topic.
Nope, 42.
You wrote 43 in the show notes.
Oh, you picked up the wrong one.
This is the one you sent me today.
Yeah, well, that's the...
that's the second one?
I've got 42 in mine.
Yeah, that's the second one.
Brad's looking at the wrong one.
Sons of... All right.
Here, I'll start over. Welcome to episode 42 of Auto Off Topic.
Right. Come back later for episode 43. When did you send that one to me, Andrew?
Probably a Monday. That's okay. So, Brad is our other host tonight.
I am, as always.
And we've got...
Wrong, as always, as well.
We've got a guest tonight, Josh Mead, and some of you may know him from the internets as IncorporatedX.
Yes.
And we'll get into that. How are you doing, Josh?
I'm pretty good. Thanks for asking.
Cool. Well, before we get too deep, you probably heard our new intro music. And I want to thank our friends Z28, the band, for letting us use the title track from their digital album Z28 as our new theme song. Brad and I actually went to one of their live shows Friday night.
They're really, really good.
One of our close friends is the bassist, and he actually suggested that we should ask them to use one of their songs.
Yes.
And they graciously let us. So,
well, it only makes sense because the band's name is Z28,
yeah.
and the title track is about a car.
Yeah.
So it just fits in perfectly.
So I'll post links to the band in our show notes and to the Facebook page. You can listen to them on Bandcamp, and you should like their Facebook page for show information. I believe on Facebook it is under Nobody Rides for Free, Z28.
Okay.
I'll double check that.
Yeah, I'll double check that. I checked it out, but my computer's not working.
Yeah. You can pull it up on your Facebook if you want.
Yeah, but then I lose the thing on my phone, and it's a whole thing.
Anyway. So. I'm 99% sure that's what it is. It's not under Z28. If you search Z28 Band on Facebook, it will come up, but I believe their little username is Nobody Rides for Free. So.
Right, and you just search Z28, and he comes up with lots of Camaro stuff.
Yes.
So,
yeah, right.
But anyway, yeah, so definitely like them. They're a good band. If you like Southern California, like heavy stoner rock, that's kind of their, like a little like Caius, or the heavier version like Fu Manchu.
Exactly.
They're pretty cool band.
So, Josh, you are one of the co-founders and owners of Adventure Driven Design. And before we get too much into what Adventure Driven Design is and what you guys do and the vehicles you support, we thought we'd get to know Josh some more. So we're going to start sort of from the beginning, right? So I guess we'll ask you our first question. We'll get right into it. And it was, how did you get into cars, trucks, or bikes, Josh?
Well, I grew up out in the country. I grew up in a log cabin near the west coast of Michigan, and my brother, who's a year younger than I, we love the outdoors and exploring. And out in the country, the quickest way to get around for young kids is either a bicycle or a dirt bike. And my father brought home a 175 two-stroke Yamaha Enduro when we were kids, and that was how we got around a lot when we were kids, and that was sort of what we learned, a little bit of how the internal combustion engine worked. I love that bike. I actually wish I still had it, but we rode all over the place on that thing, spent a lot of our days out in the woods. And when I was a kid, I had no idea what racing or modified cars were about. I knew that my dad was into cars when he was younger, but all that stuff had been replaced with farm equipment and diesel trucks by the time I was around. And it wasn't until I was 13 or 14 that I started to get any interest at all in cars. And that was just because my best friend at the time was really into cars. And his dad was a big Mopar fan. He had a Dodge Caravan that he had converted to rear-wheel drive and dropped a 440 big block into. It was
That's amazing.
Really creative, really well-executed vehicle. Looking back on it, I'm even more impressed now, having gone through, doing random builds and custom builds and stuff, and knowing that he had built that thing in his garage. But he used to take it to classic car shows and swap meets and stuff. And I was invited along all the time, and it really didn't take me long at all to get hooked on modified cars. I really only was interested in domestic cars and muscle cars when I was young, but that was just because that was all I was exposed to.
That was very similar to us.
Yeah, it's a common theme with a lot of people in our age bracket, because you're right around the same age as us.
Yeah.
And, our parents or people who got us into it were muscle car guys, because that's what you had.
Oh yeah, I mean, Michigan, you're just knee deep in muscle cars all the time.
Detroit, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I've always wanted to get out to Michigan to that Woodward Dream Cruise just one time, just to say I did it. One of those car guy things.
Yeah, that van's been to that cruise a few times.
Probably has. Seems like something that would fit in there very well. Was it an early boxy style minivan?
Oh yeah. The quad headlight, total boxy style. It was
Awesome.
like a Dr. Pepper maroon kind of color.
Yeah,
it was
with the matching interior.
Nice.
It actually had 4 racing buckets in it, and the slider door still worked. He had the entire rear of the van converted to a panel van style, so that from the outside it only had the driver's and passenger window. It had a narrowed 9.5 or 4 9-inch rear end with 29.5-inch slicks on the back of it. So looking from the back, it just looked like a full-on drag car.
That's
parachute, awesome. Wheelie bars, everything.
Oh, it's full done. Yeah, it's cool.
That sounds really cool.
Was the color of the van an inspiration for your van, Ron Burgundy?
No, that just looked out that way, but definitely drew me in when I saw that van. I was like, oh, I love that color.
Yeah, absolutely. That's cool. I wish I had seen this caravan. That's pretty awesome.
There's pictures, I think, on my Instagram somewhere. I'll throw another one up after we get done with this interview, just so it's floating around out there, so people aren't like, "Hey, what's that? What was over that van about?"
Yeah, I can kind of picture it in my head, but I want it to be as cool as it really is. You know what I mean? That's really cool. That's pretty much that's probably, of all the people we've had on, that's the coolest how I got into cars story, because nobody else is like, it was a full drag racing Dodge Caravan. Yeah. It was always my dad worked at a car dealership or something similar to that story. That's a cool story.
So, as there is the theme to a lot of these podcast episodes, the people we typically have on are into Mitsubishis, along with being into cars. So how did you end up landing on Mitsubishis?
It was actually through that same friend. My best friend when I was a kid, growing up around him and his dad, him being heavily into Mopar. My friend, when he was 14 years old, bought a 73 Dodge Duster with 318, and it was like a police auction car. He got it up and running, and it just seemed like, yep, we're headed in the muscle car direction. That's just where we're going to go. It needed a lot of work, though, and by the time he got his driver's license, it was not roadworthy. And so he had a Dodge Rampage, which, like a little truck car.
Which is awesome.
2.2 liter.
Andrew hates truck
machine.
cars. I love truck cars.
Oh, I'm a big fan of truck cars, man. I love the versatility of them.
Excellent.
But he was the first one of us to get his driver's license, and him and my brother and I would scrounge up all of our change and go to Hot Now, which is a Michigan-based fast food spot that I think is long since. I think there might still be one location left. They used to have 35-cent cheeseburgers.
Whoa.
And yeah, so this is quite a ways back in the day, but I used to follow his lead a lot when we were younger, because he knew he was just ingrained in car culture since he was very, very young. So he was, in my mind, a few years ahead of me, and he got to learn the K car platform and what turbo variants they had, and he started to move in that direction. I thought, okay, I guess we're going to get into the 2.2 turbo engines, and he came across a Plymouth Laser and took me out for a ride in it. And as soon as the boost kicked in, it was over. I was done. I was
addicted.
Yeah. And we popped the hood and started poking around. And I thought, man, this looks advanced. It looks complex. And, then that's when I learned that Mitsubishi had manufactured the engine. And this was back when like forums were just getting started. So information wasn't like readily available. I ended up finding a clean Eclipse GST down in Oklahoma, first gen. And we took his laser and drove from Michigan all the way to Oklahoma, picked up the first gen, and then drove all the way back, didn't sleep the entire way through. And I never looked back from that day forward.
So one Mitsubishi sold you on the entire company's worth of cars.
Yep, pretty much.
This
It's kind of like
familiar.
sticking to what you know.
Yeah, that's the same happened to us. I bought that Talon probably about the same era. What year did you buy that car?
Oh man, it would have been like 98, 99, 2000, somewhere in there.
Yeah, because it's the same. I bought my Talon right after graduating high school, so it would have been 99 or 2000.
Yeah. Same era for me.
And that's kind of what hooked me, and then subsequently Andrew on Mitsubishis as well.
Yeah.
So we're all in the same boat. It was that initial little tiny 14B spooling up that got us all hooked. So, and I remember the internet was, there weren't a lot of forums when I got my car, so I didn't know how to maintain it either or do anything with it. But I remember there was a guy who ran a website called the Talon Temple. I don't know if you remember that.
No, I'm not familiar.
Yeah, it was just a super fan of these things, and I don't remember much about it. But all my information came from there. So
it was pretty in depth.
Email back and forth with him over stupid little things, but 'cause there weren't any forums yet.
No,
but yeah, that was where my information came from. So yeah, same era. But how many DSMs have you owned since then?
Oh God, I have no idea.
Excellent.
It was, if I had to guess, I'd say Mitsu-wise somewhere in the 30 to 40. I probably own like 10 to 15 other, makes. I've had Subarus and Audis, Volkswagens, Volvos, station wagons, of course, Land Rovers, Toyotas, Fords, Chevy Dodges. That mostly filled the, hey, I'm going to give this a try area, but I always come back to the Mitsus.
Yeah, whenever I get back into Mitsu, I'm like, yeah, this is home.
Yeah.
This feels right.
The smell of a Galant VR4 is something that no other vehicle has. The interior of a Galant VR4 has a very unique smell, and I don't think I've ever smelled. Something about, I think, the leather that they used on the seats.
it probably is. Yeah.
It's our crack, I guess. Gets us through the day. So,
yeah.
where did the name IncorporatedX come from? Is that a car-related thing, or is that something else?
Man, I'm not even sure. I created that somewhere along the line. It was just like I worked in corporate gigs. I had been, trying to do my own thing, but trying to follow the money, go through college and get the corporate jobs and stuff. But it seemed like I was always a little too crass for the corporate areas. Like my commentary was always a little bit more rated X than what you would want to have in an office kind of setting.
All right, that makes sense.
So it was always like, hey, I'm trying to be a suit, but there's no way I can actually pull that off.
Yeah, I don't fit in because I don't have a filter.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's cool.
Yep. My mouth has gotten me in plenty of trouble over the years.
That's all of us, I'm sure.
Yep. Yep.
So in general, like what appeals to you most about just wrenching on cars as opposed to, working a desk job or, I guess?
I think it really satisfies my curiosity. The automotive industry is really complex, from just innovations that are being made to the background of how the industry works. And no matter how well you understand something, there's always going to be something to learn. There's companies that are always innovating. There's always new technology that can be retrofitted into older vehicles, and I'm really into that. Mitsubishi is like pretty easy to use components from any generation and any model on any other model and any other generation.
Yeah, there's a lot of compatibility. Yep.
It's like playing with Legos, my girlfriend Kim, she's got a 1975 Mitsubishi Galant wagon, and we're putting a 1991 Mitsubishi Mighty Max drivetrain into that. So it'll have fuel injection, air conditioning, power steering, power brakes.
Is that a 2.4?
Yeah, and the retrofit's not difficult at all. The motor mounts are identical 30 years later.
Yeah, I know a lot of the bolt patterns stayed the same throughout most of the generations, and the ones that didn't, there's usually some way to find something to make it work. So,
did the block stay similar? No, that was different.
Well, there's two block designs.
Yeah, there's only two different blocks. So, when I put the 4G63 into my 73 station wagon, it just bolted right up to the transmission. And granted, it was a KM119, so it was like the diameter of a pencil trying to hold up to 200 horsepower.
Yeah, right.
it just impressed me that, 20, 30 years of engineering changes, and you can still just bolt this modern turbo engine into this old, gearbox. I ended up going to a KM132 later just to be on the safe side, but just the fact that the KM119 worked was pretty impressive to me.
Yeah, they work for a while, not forever.
Yeah, no third gear pulls and full boost, that's for sure.
No, I plan on when eventually I do wind up swapping my blue car, I plan on staying naturally aspirated and just go with the KM119 for simplicity. But that's
an NA motor in one of those chassis is nice, simple, plenty of power, plenty of reliability.
Yeah, it's like 3 times the horsepower. So it's
Yeah, I think the only reason I actually went with the turbo motor in that was because no one had really done it yet, and I was like, you know what, I got to beat somebody to the punch, because if I don't do this, somebody else is going to do this in the next couple of years.
Yeah, it's good to have that, be the first, and everybody remembers you for it, and it helps when you start to build your own
Make all the
company.
mistakes and help other people learn.
It was that too, yeah, but it gets your name out there too. So
did I think our other guest Jeremy was one of the first with the rear-wheel drive 4G63.
He had the 4G63 Mighty Max.
Yeah,
back in the late
actually,
90s.
I learned a lot from the stuff that he had compiled while he was doing that. When I was doing my swap, his wiring diagram was what I used to wire the ECU up into that Colt, and just random little tiny bit of information when they Mitsu used the same ignition switch throughout most of the years.
Yeah, throughout the entire history of Mitsubishi.
Basically, in the 70s, though, it was different. There was only one circuit that was missing from it. From like 1979 or 1980 or something and up, it had a circuit that would give constant power during cranking, so you could keep the ECU and the fuel pump powered. Well, in the 70s, they didn't do that, so I actually had to rework some stuff. So when I was looking through his wiring diagram, I'm like, man, why doesn't this make sense? And then I finally pulled up the ignition switch and realized what was going on there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's good that Jeremy was pretty thorough about documenting the build as he was doing it.
Yep.
He helped a lot of people build those cars and trucks. So
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's real cool. We're connecting the world here.
Yeah.
Mitsubishi world.
Most of our guests all know Jeremy.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like a
small world.
Yeah, well, it's a small-ish enthusiast community for the entire car line, basically. I mean,
Yeah, well, it's funny. I went to a small little car meet last night in my hometown, right around the corner from my house.
yeah,
And there's some people that were, I brought the 78 Colt, and there were some people that were like, oh, man, where do you find parts for these things? It's like, well, you kind of know everybody that's into them,
Yeah.
and by the end of the day, you wind up just, people just give each other parts to keep these things on the road, pretty much essentially. So it's not, it's not difficult once you're friendly and know everybody.
yeah. No, and then I think it's kind of a joke, like how many Galant VR4 owners now own Monteros?
Yes.
Oh yeah,
it's
there's
pretty,
so many.
pretty
Well,
common.
there's even a thread on the Galant forums that's the official Galant VR4 Montero owners thread.
I went the other way around though. I started with the Montero,
Yeah,
so I backed into that club backwards.
only by a few months.
Yeah, not by very long, exactly.
There's got to be I think there's 10 or 15 people
Oh yeah, at least.
just that post on the forum.
Well, I think that anybody who owns a Mitsubishi that's older than 20 years old, like older than 20-year-old Mitsubishi, usually has more than one. So,
Yeah,
I mean, we all get sucked into it somehow. So,
Yeah, I actually had gone down the Jeep road originally because, after I got my first DSM, it was from Oklahoma and it was rust free. And I was like, I don't want this thing to rust, in the Michigan winters. And so I'm like, I need something to drive through the snow up here. And I followed my friend's lead again. And he's a Chrysler fanatic. So he had a Jeep Cherokee. So I picked up a Jeep Comanche, and it was a pretty cool little truck, but I snapped that rear Dana 35 pretty quick.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I moved into a Montero Sport, and then as soon as I figured out that the full-size Monteros had lockers, I went, and that and the quad cam 3.5 liter, I immediately went over to one of those.
that's cool. That's funny because I also had a Comanche for a short period of time. But I had mine had the Dana 40, what's the next one, 44?
Dana 44,
Because
yeah.
it was the big ton package. So it was
nice.
it was a long bed with was like a sort of half ton truck. It had bigger axles and heavier duty springs, but
yeah, but those trucks were half.
they were half unibody.
Yeah,
they were weird.
Yeah, it was half a year bed missing
No,
due to rust.
nope, not at all. Actually, it was the floors had been replaced by the previous owner. But the bed was pretty nice. The doors were trashed and the fenders were trashed. But I had new doors and fenders for it. I actually sold it to a friend of the podcast who sold it on to somebody else, and neither one of us ever really put it together and drove it. I actually sold that truck to buy the Galant VR4.
That's right.
So that's...
Good choice.
Yeah, well, it isn't, because the Galant's been broken ever since I bought it, so...
A broken Mitsubishi is better than a working Jeep any day.
That was a broken Jeep, too. So I guess...
Insult to injury.
Yeah. I guess it wasn't broken as bad as the Mitsubishi was. And then when I sold it, unfortunately, it dropped a valve right after I sold it to the guy. I felt really bad, but it was kind of like I bought the Galant blew up, he brought the Jeep blew up. So it was kind of like we're just trading crappy cars around one another, unfortunately. But yeah, I did like that truck, even though I never really got to drive it. And, as much as we say Jeep is kind of a dirty word around here, but I don't hate them. I hate new ones.
Drive one across country one time. You'll hate them.
Okay.
I promise you that.
I don't know if I'd love my Raider if I drove it across country either, though.
I drove an 87 Montero from Los Angeles to Michigan, and I'd do it again any day. I drove a 2015 Jeep Wrangler from Phoenix to Michigan, and you couldn't pay me money to drive it across the state.
That's interesting.
It's just so horribly designed. I mean, they're relying on the sales of their flagship vehicles like the Rubicons and things like that.
Yep.
And anything below the Rubicon is pretty much just junk. They ride terrible. Their interior space is extremely limited. The fit and finish of the 87 Montero is leaps and bounds ahead of the 2015 Jeep Wrangler.
Yeah, I've always hated the interior designs in the Jeeps, too. They seem very thrown together. Like, there's not a lot of space. You're really cramped in there. It's very dark. I just never really liked the interiors of those either. So I can see why you said that now that you bring it up that way.
What year did your dad have, Brad?
87.
It was
a first-year YJ Wrangler.
But that was the last of the AMC, or that was the AMC parts in a Chrysler?
It was... I don't remember. It had Ford parts and GM parts and AMC parts, all from the factory.
That would have been inline 6 and leaf sprung, I think.
Yes, it was inline 6.
Yeah, so that might have been a little bit better of a vehicle to drive.
That was actually fun. When I first bought the short wheelbase Montero, it reminded me of that truck because it had the same real quick, real small turning radius and the same really bouncy, because it's so short on the leaf springs that the rear bounces around a lot and the Jeep bounced around a lot. And
yeah,
it reminded me a lot of that. But yeah, I don't like the newer Jeeps. I'm okay with old Jeeps from like that era down, but new Jeeps, I don't really do anything for me.
Yeah, I go with like a classic one would be pretty fun.
Yeah, CJ7 on down probably be ideal.
But at this point, you just import a Mitsubishi Jeep.
Yeah,
that's true from Sean. That was his name, Sean, down in Georgia.
Yeah,
he's got tons of them down there.
So that would be pretty cool.
That'd be very cool, actually. What else you got, Andrew, for our lovely guest, Josh?
Well, from following Josh on the internet, and you see his Instagram posts and stuff, he's very into travel and adventure, and I wanted to know, how does that fit in with your cars and trucks? Does that determine the kind of cars and trucks that you buy?
Oh,
or?
Yeah. I mean, years back, it was never a thought. It was just, what engine's in it, how fast can it go, what kind of fun can I have with it? Because back in the 2000s and stuff, I was interested in street racing and drag racing, autocrossing, rallycross, anything that was motorsports related that involved racing and beating up on the machine. But as time has gone on, travel and adventure has come to the forefront of what I really find to be fun. And I have one requirement now when I'm shopping for a car. I just have to be able to sleep in it, comfortably. That's my only requirement.
That's a good requirement for buying a house. Not something people usually think about when buying a car, but that's definitely an interesting way to think about it. I get it, and Andrew and I have had that discussion before about the short wheelbase versus long wheelbase Raiders and Monteros. I love my little short wheelbase truck, but he's like, yeah, but I can sleep in mine. True.
Yeah,
you can do that.
Well, short wheelbase, all it needs is a rooftop tent, and it's good to go.
Yes, or you could be like our friend Eric,
who has a rooftop
tent, but doesn't like to use it when he goes wheeling. So actually, I went on a small wheeling trip with them 2 weekends ago, and he just put a tent on his roof basket because he didn't want the extra weight in the roof when he went wheeling because he felt top heavy. So that's Eric Corrales. I'm sure you know him from the Montero groups.
I follow him.
Yep.
I've seen a lot of his posts.
Yeah, I went wheeling with them a couple weekends ago. Well, not in my truck, unfortunately. Not in my Raider, in my big dump Silverado instead. So I gotta get that Raider back
in the mud.
Yeah, it was buried pretty good. Buried isn't the word. It was pulling through.
I heard your the last podcast. You guys were going back and forth on swapping that 2.6 turbo motor in, and I felt like, oh man, I have to chime in on that because all that is 4 wires and a fuel pump, and you're done. The hardest part's routing the intercooler piping, and you're smart enough to figure that out. So I don't know why that flat side rusted Starion is still in existence.
And his 84 Starion doesn't have an intercooler.
My 84 Starion is non-intercooled actually, so I wouldn't even have to worry about that.
Man, it just got tons easier.
Okay, so I have a set of valve stem seals coming for the naturally aspirated 2.6 that's in the Raider right now.
They're the same as the turbo one. You might as well do maintenance on the turbo one while you're swapping the motor over.
I don't unfortunately have the time to swap the motor over this week.
It takes 45 minutes to remove that engine.
You are not welcome on the show anymore. 45 minutes. Take a little more than that in that car. I have this problem, Josh, where I get emotionally attached to a car, and I know that car.
That is a really bad thing to have up in the Northeast, man.
Yeah,
emotionally attached to something that decays.
Yeah, and I know that car is really beyond what's financially feasible, or not even financially, because I can do the work myself. But it's beyond worth doing the project itself.
It's not a good use of time.
It's not a good use of time, yeah.
Considering
exactly.
For not much money, you could buy one that was solid from out west with a toasted
I could
interior.
be like, Josh, find me a nice one, and he'd find me one by tomorrow.
Yeah.
They're laying in backyards all over around here. Actually, I know a guy right now that's got one that just needs a transmission, and the transmission it needs is sitting at my house.
Okay, so if you can convince me that I can somehow get that car and drive that car back home, I will turbo swap the Raider. But what I need to do is I need to get the car running by next week, the Raider running by next week, for MOD East.
Well, the flat-sider runs, right?
It does run. It runs and drives great. There's only like 10,000 miles in that motor.
So putting a running motor into that thing would be pretty easy.
It sounds easy, but something would come up, and I wouldn't have time to do it, and I wouldn't have time to sort it out, and it would be an issue. And I'm just making excuses now, so stop me anytime.
Yeah, with that kind of attitude, you're never going to get it done.
But for now, okay.
But you are right. The valve stem seals is just a pop a cam,
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to pop the valve stem seals in and see if the smoke goes away. If the smoke goes away, I'm going to drive it to MOD. I'm going to do the wheeling trip where, I think what's happening here, Andrew, is Josh is just nervous that the East Coast crew is going to have a bigger Montero contingent than the West Coast crew. So he's trying to make me make a bad decision and not have one less truck there.
I'm on the fence. I mean, maybe. I might be able to go. We'll see.
Well, if I do this project and it fails miserably, I have to steal one of Andrew's trucks to go down to the event.
Yeah, the silver one's ready to go. You just keep the radiator topped off.
But anyway, so we got a little off topic there, as we always do, because people like to give Brad crap because he has a yard full of crap, and actually his father has a yard full of crap because he doesn't have room in his own house for his crap.
Just leave me something and I'll fix it.
Yeah, well, I think that vehicle will be turbo swapped at some point. It's just, I don't know. I think you say it's 4 wires, but I don't know.
It is. We've done it. I mean, there's one right down the road from here that the swap is such. It almost does itself. It's that you put it in and you're like, wow, there's really not much else to do. I mean, you don't have to run new fuel lines or anything. You use the existing fuel lines. In the back, right where the fuel line comes out of the fuel tank, you just put an inline fuel pump in there, just a universal
that's
one.
What my
That'll
plan
get you
was.
the fuel pressure you need. Yeah. It's ridiculous how simple it is. And that 2.6 motor, when it's working and it's reliable and it doesn't have that Mikuni carb on it, if it has a Weber on it, they're a pretty good motor.
Actually, my truck has a Weber on it.
Chinese Weber.
Listen.
Yeah, so it's a
Feber
setup. You've got a knockoff?
It's still a Weber. The carb has never been an issue, surprisingly. I drove that thing right through a New England winter, and the thing starts just beautifully, actually, even with that cheesy Chinese-made Weber carb on it. So,
my experience with those things is they work just as good as the normal Webers. They actually just whistle a little more. There's a little bit more.
It does make noise. There's no question it makes a little noise. But I've never had an issue with it. Yeah, for the $400 I paid for the truck, I mean, it came with the carb on it already, and it came with some other stuff, so it's totally worth the $400 I paid for it, regardless of anything that ever happens to it. So,
well, gee,
that's the beauty of the 2.6 short wheelbases. Is all you got to do is wait for somebody to get frustrated with trying to maintain them, and they give up on them, and you get them for nothing. And if you know how to maintain them, you're good.
Yeah, well, that's what this truck was. It was in the junkyard. Because the guy couldn't make it run, and I had it running before I drove it out of the junkyard. So it was a firing order issue, and that was...
I mean, the engine's only blown up 3 times since, but...
That's beside the point.
That's how my brother got his first Turbo Conquest. Was it the Haynes manual firing order?
Okay, yeah, let's try backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember what firing... I don't remember what order it was in, but I know, the firing order from owning... dozens of these stupid things.
The heinous manual.
Yeah, one of the manuals out there over the years put the wrong firing order in it, and a lot of guys followed that book, for maintenance, and then they end up having to sell it because...
Which you would.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
But overlanding.
Yeah.
That's your big thing now, right? A lot of overlanding, a lot of rock climbing.
Yeah. Yeah, we do a lot of adventuring like that.
Were you more into overlanding before you knew what overlanding was? Or is that something that you kind of fell into, like, hey, these people are doing this cool thing called overlanding, I want to try it?
I was doing it for years, and then when I got into the four-wheel drive world, that's where I started hearing the phrase, and I'm like, what is this overlanding stuff that people keep talking about? And then I looked into it, and I was like, oh,
yeah, it's
okay.
4x4 camping.
Going out and exploring, finding a good spot with a good view, hanging out. Adam and I have very different, my business partner, Adam, and I have very different approaches to off-roading. He loves going rock crawling, and he loves doing the easy stuff too. But my favorite is just going on a good graded Forest Service road and going further than the normal person would go.
That's what I like.
And finding a good place to set up camp and just hanging out, with my friends or my family or my girlfriend. And just, watching the sunset, just being out away from the city, away from the hustle and bustle.
That's what attracted us to it pretty much as well, because I already liked camping, and then I liked cars, and wait a second. There's got to be a way to combine these things together.
Yeah. I don't love camping. I'm warming up to it still. I like just blasting down dirt roads. That's the other thing.
Yeah, that is a lot of fun. Growing up in Michigan, that was always readily available. And then moving to the Phoenix metro area, and before that, living in the city in Michigan, I lost a lot of my dirt road fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're lucky out here in the Northeast, too. We have a lot of mountain roads and, access roads to tops of the mountains.
I mean, we're like a couple hours away, but
yeah,
like 2 hours minimum, you can get to some nice roads.
Yeah, it's
I
totally
know, like, being out a couple times I've been to Phoenix, because my fiance is from the Arizona area. You can just literally just drive outside the city limits, and then all of a sudden there's just a dirt road. Like, it's so bizarre to me how, like, the landscape will just change from, like, houses to just desert. Like a very stark...
I'm right on the edge of the Tonto National Forest, so it's like I get in my Montero, and it's 10 minutes to the nearest trailhead, and, full-on off-roading right there.
Yeah. Like, a sidewalk will end, and it's just desert. Like, literally desert. Like...
This is where the artist drawing the cartoon ran out of time.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, no, we have some really nice mountain roads up here, but yeah, like Andrew said, they're all a couple hours away. So
yeah,
it always becomes a weekend trip. It's not like after work I want to go wheeling. You can't. You need to make a plan of it and make a weekend out of it.
Maine has some nice roads, but they are forestry logging roads, so you have to be aware of that. But then we've discovered, and I haven't been up there, but you guys have been up to Vermont.
That's why we fell in love with Vermont, going up to Vermont, because a lot of the roads up there are just their access to get to the top of the mountain for whatever reason. A lot of dirt bikes and quads use them, but they're just wide enough. Some of them aren't really wide enough. Yeah. But for trucks. So
Vermont has this massive. They're all sort of cataloged and documented. All these primitive roads, they call them.
Yep.
And they're just really well documented, and they're. If you know where to look and where to find them, you're well rewarded. So
yeah, it's an amazing trip. And if you ever get up to the Northeast, Josh, we'll take you up to do some wheeling in Vermont, because it's an amazing time.
Yeah,
I love to. That place looks like the countryside is really beautiful in the summer and especially in the fall.
Yeah, it's absolutely stunning, and I think you guys have a good time up here. You and Adam, or you and Kim is your name, right? Your girlfriend. Yeah, so you guys have a lot of fun up here for sure.
Vermont is an interesting mix of sort of Maine and New Hampshire and Massachusetts, where it's got some mountains and then a lot of rolling farmland.
Yep.
So it's very much like upstate New York, if that makes sense.
Well, I've never been to the East Coast at all, so
Really?
yeah, I've never been beyond Pennsylvania.
Well, so see, for an adventurer, that's definitely a trip you have to make then.
It's definitely, I would say Vermont is very much like rural Pennsylvania with more elevation.
With mountains.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's very similar. You'll have those rolling hills and farmland, and then the edges of it will be mountains.
Yeah, all the rolling hills and farmland are in the valleys between two mountains.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of trails to go up there, and it's definitely a worthwhile trip. I mean,
It sounds really picturesque.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful, and there's no brown bears. It's just black bears, so it's good. You don't have to worry about the California brown bears.
Yeah,
or the grizzlies.
Yeah.
We have a lot calmer bears around here. So, I guess we can move on to adventure-driven design, Andrew. You think?
Yeah, let's talk about your company. So, what
That's what you're here for?
Is adventure-driven design?
Well, we started ADD about a little over a year ago.
Yeah.
Adam Campbell and I, we sat down over coffee and we were just kind of discussing what we wanted out of life. He was working a full-time job. I was working a full-time job. We weren't really happy with the way that things were going in our lives. We were happy with our personal lives, but the work-life balance kind of thing didn't really work. We'd spend all day just at work daydreaming about the next adventure we were going to go on, or researching or planning an adventure or a build, or researching parts or whatever. And meanwhile, we're at these jobs that we really don't care about. We do our best to do the 9 to 5, but at the end of the day, when we clocked out, we would walk out of our respective workplaces and completely forget about our jobs until Monday morning. We just didn't care. We just weren't in it. And we spent a ton of our life living on the idea that if you do what you love for a living, you're going to completely kill your enthusiasm for it. And I think a lot of people learn that when they're young.
Yep. We had the same discussion with Brian Driggs, actually. He was making a lot of the same points.
I'm not sure if that's entirely true, but that you'll kill your enthusiasm for it.
Well, no, that's what he's saying is not true.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's
moving on to the next point in the story.
Yeah.
When you're a kid and you're going through, like, you meet with your counselor in high school and stuff, and what are you interested in? What do you want to do? And they tell you to pursue a career in your interests. But then you talk to people in real life, and they're like, dude, don't do your hobby as a job. It'll just kill it. It'll just ruin it. And Brian, for years, has been pushing the whole work-life parallel idea. And it's something that I wanted, but the fear of killing my hobby really made it, scary to me. But on the flip side, the idea of selling my soul Monday to Friday so that I could make money so that I could work on the things that I did enjoy, it seemed like there was like a really big middleman in the position. You get 8 hours of sleep, you get 8 hours of mind-numbing work, and then you get 8 hours of wrenching or adventuring or, spending time with the people that you love. And that just didn't all balance out in my book. And I just said, hey, I'm going to take this leap into adventure-driven design. And I hope the name explains sort of what it is. Our designs are driven by our intention to adventure. Reliability and quality being the most important aspect of what we're doing.
And what kind of vehicles are you providing products for? Because
we started off with what we know best, Mitsubishis, of course. Between myself and Adam, we've got 30 years of combined experience. Adam's mostly in the Montero and four-wheel drive platform. Mine's been across the board because I kind of have automotive ADD, which is, we chose those initials on purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. And
since then, we've expanded a little bit into Toyotas and some other makes, and eventually we'll manufacture parts for like a lot of different four-wheel drive vehicles. And like we even have parts listed on our website for the Galant Vera 4s and the Evos, because we will go into that market. We will provide, Under Armour for all kinds of Mitsubishi platforms. In fact, we were just talking the other day about getting skid plates drawn up for the Mitsubishi Mirage and the Outlander, because a lot of guys are using those. There's this, I don't know how old or new the phrase is, but the term soft roader has come out, for guys like, Andrew, you and I, were the idea of just blasting down a dirt road, a Forest Service road and finding a campsite is about the extent of what you want to do, but you want to make sure that, your vehicle's protected when you're doing it.
You're talking about the new Mirage?
Yeah, the little 3-cylinder one, CVT.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have much experience with that car, but it interests me a little bit.
I had to have a skid plate made for my Galant VR4 because I would go out to shoot rallies, and that was the only car I had at the time. And it was lowered just on those H&R springs, so not much, but it would smash and bottom out on the rally roads, and I was like, I got to get a skid plate. And then eventually it was like, well, I need something better than this, and that's what led me to the Montero. But anyway, so yeah, that's definitely something that of value if you can have skid plates or something. That's a neat thing to have. And Outlander, Outlanders are a great platform too.
There's a lot of people that are into those, especially on the West Coast right now. Because it's a vehicle that's friendly enough for city life, traffic, and navigating around the rural areas. And then it's got all-wheel drive and a fairly intelligent all-wheel drive, so you're able to take it out into the dirt and maintain traction. You have some decent ground clearance for a small car. Yeah,
my dad has a 2010. It's a pretty neat because it's 99% of the time we leave it in front-wheel drive, and then if you need it, you can just turn the knob and it's all-wheel drive. Or if you're really in deep snow, you just turn it to the other setting and it locks the center diff. So you suddenly have a semi 4x4 vehicle.
I didn't realize that a diff lock in the center.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's pretty neat.
Probably my old Audi had.
Yeah.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I had an old Audi 5000 that did that.
Yeah, I had a 4000. Same setup, I'm sure. The vacuum operated.
Yep.
Millions of miles of vacuum lines.
Yes, for sure.
So other than those particular vehicles, what other vehicles do you have planned in the future? I mean, you said Toyota. What kind of Toyota stuff are you doing now?
It'll be mostly the four-wheel drive platforms for Toyotas. The market is big enough in the Toyota realm that just providing, skid plates and things like that will just continue to create enough business to kind of keep the doors open. We won't have to worry. The Montero market is very much a niche market. It's a small market, but it's what we love. It's our passion, and we don't ever want to take away from that. But we have to do something to ensure that the business stays.
Well,
open.
Once everybody that we know buys your parts, then
once the 10 people buy parts for Monteros, then what do you do?
Yeah, exactly. You need to figure out a secondary business model.
Well, yeah, I was even thinking I'm like, well, what am I going to buy eventually when I have to replace this Montero if there isn't another Montero available?
There will always be a Montero.
Well, if I can't find the same generation, another nice version of one, I was like, I would move probably towards an Xterra. I don't know if you're familiar with those. Mm-hmm. They're kind of neat trucks, so I was kind of wondering if you were going to build stuff for them or, yeah.
I actually ran into a guy in traffic one day because I, moved down to Arizona, left all my friends back in the Midwest, made new friends down in Arizona, but they were all Mitsubishi friends. And I wanted to develop armor and everything for the Nissan Fold. And I'm like, oh, man, I don't know anybody with a Nissan. And I was in traffic one day, and there was just this guy that he had a lightly modified Xterra. And I rolled up next to him. I was like, hey, man, you pull over. Let me get your information. And, he pulled off, and he's like, who is this nut job? We talked for a couple of minutes. And exchanged information, and so he's going to allow us to use his truck so that we can build the prototypes for the Under Armour and everything.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, when you tell somebody you're going to give them some parts, if you get use their vehicle, they usually open up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
You got to build me a what? All right, cool.
Yeah, our friend that's been on the show, Jordan, he's got an Xterra. He's got the last year they made him. Yeah, the 15, the Pro 4X, which, really, it's a super, super nice truck. I love driving that thing. The fact that it came with a 6-speed manual, and it's got the factory diff lock.
And we don't want to admit it freely, but we have to because
he's the ditch hooker's recovery service.
We do respect his vehicle and his driving skills, but he has recovered quite a few Monteros. So
it's Nissan owns Mitsu.
Yeah, so there's some family love there right now. But he's recovered Andrew's truck.
It's one of his 2-wheel drive.
He hasn't recovered my truck, I don't think.
No.
But he had another recovery this past weekend on that trip to Vermont I was talking about with AJ imported that right-hand drive turbo diesel truck from England.
It's got junk tires on it,
right? The red one?
Yeah, the Shogun. And he got buried pretty good. Now, I will admit it was probably my fault that it was his fault because he chose the wrong path. And we had to back out of the path. And I was in my 7,000-pound, crew cab Silverado diesel. And I dug some pretty serious trenches. And I had to be pulled out because I have highway tires. And then he got stuck in my trenches with his, stock height, first gen short wheelbase, and the Xterra had to pull him out as well. So it was the Xterra's got a few Mitsubishi notches on its belt, and we got to give Jordan the credit because he keeps lightly reminding me that I haven't mentioned that in the podcast yet. So there you go, Jordan.
Those are good trucks. They're kind of Nissan's sort of unsung hero, like the Montero is. You know, they didn't take a whole lot to the aftermarket crowd. And I mean, those things you could get the Nissan with a supercharger. You know, how cool is that?
Yeah, that's very cool.
What if the Montero would have come with the like they knew boosted motors. Mitsu knew what they were doing when it came to boosted engines.
Yeah, I was
surprised. It would have been nothing for them to throw a supercharger on the Montero.
I was surprised when I learned that the Pajero Evolution was not a turbo car. I always assumed it was, looking at pictures of it.
No, it's at Myvec.
But
still screams.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it's cool still, but I was just surprised. It was one of those things that you see that thing, it's it's a homologation special, and every other homologation Mitsubishi is a turbo something. So I was like, oh, he must be a twin turbo. But nope.
Yeah, it totally makes sense,
Yeah.
And then as far as like relatability, when I'm working on a Nissan, it's the thing that feels the most like a Mitsubishi.
Yeah, it's very
similar. Me, even before they bought, obviously they haven't really shared much engineering yet, but even just being under the Xterra, it feels a lot like a Mitsubishi. It's very comfortable to work on.
I think a lot of that is they're the smaller of the Japanese manufacturers.
Yeah,
they probably have a lot of cross-shared parts and cross-shared people that develop parts for them. The third parties that develop parts.
Probably.
They probably share a lot with Mitsubishi and Nissan because they're a smaller volume than, say, a Toyota or a Honda. I would guess. I mean, that's a
fair guess.
Pure conjecture. I don't really know for sure.
Yeah.
But.
Well, their island is only so big, and I'm sure there's only so many engineers that exist on that island.
That seems to be per capita the most of them, though, because they have a lot of manufacturers over there. They make a lot of cool stuff for a small place.
Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely do.
So back to your company, Adventure Driven Design. On these parts that you're making, who is doing the design and engineering and then the testing of them? Is it just you and Adam?
Well, it's kind of a collective effort locally. Adam's a fabricator by trade.
Yeah.
He's certified in welding. The guy can look at something. He knows whether it's structurally sound or not, just 2 seconds of looking at it. I have a degree in business, and I've worked in product development, so I kind of understand that process. We've got a really, really strong core group of enthusiasts here in Arizona. Phoenix is kind of like, I've always looked at it as like the mecca of Monteros. There's like 30-plus Montero owners just right here in the valley. And 2 or 3 of the Montero owners, I think 2 of the Montero owners and one of the other guys, one of our friends, Keith Roper, he's a Galant VR4 enthusiast. They work with SolidWorks daily, so it's just, we can hand make a prototype and hand it over to one of our friends who will turn it into a SolidWorks drawing, and then I coordinate materials and manufacturing. And our friend Kevin, he has one of the most built Monteros in the U.S., and he wheels harder than most of the people, so he tends to be one of our testers. We give him stuff because if it's going to break, he's going to break it. And if he can't break it, Adam will figure out. Well, if he can't, Adam will figure out how to break it.
Oh, okay.
Adam will break it out of sheer force, with the intent of breaking it.
Just to see how much it can take.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So sorry, go ahead.
In the manufacturing side of things, when we first started, we first put together the company. We got everything up and rolling. My life got a little bit turbulent, and a lot of my savings I had to spend on some other stuff, just personal life related. And then I found out that my identity actually had been stolen by someone back home, and that dude managed to wreck my credit. So my original business plan of purchasing machinery to manufacture stuff in-house had to change. We just didn't have the capital anymore to do that. So we actually had to outsource our manufacturing. But it was like, I guess you'd call it a diamond stars aligned kind of situation. I was catching up one day with Brian Driggs, and he mentioned that a mutual friend of ours needed some part-time help getting his rally car back up on the dirt. And our mutual friend's Keith Roper. He's a mechanical engineer, a Galant VR4 enthusiast, a stage rally driver. He's on Prescott Rally and a bunch of other ones.
He has Brian's old Galant, right?
Yes, yeah. Exactly. Yep. And his previous Galant VR4, he raced in stage rally all over the West Coast, and the front strut tower had separated from the frame on one of the landings of one of the many jumps that it had taken, and that totally destroyed the front chassis. And he was in the middle of swapping everything from that chassis over to Brian Driggs' old chassis. but his company takes up a ton of his time. You know, he's a small business owner, self-starter, so, you know, he works 24 hours a day pretty much. And I stopped in to see if I could help get his car back up on the road and also help build myself some working capital while I was trying to get Adventure Driven going. And we got to talking and catching up, and he offered me a combo part-time job. So like the first half of the week I work in his engineering firm for half the day, and the other half of the day I work in Gallant Bureau Floors. And, you know, that helps me get capital going so that I can keep the business going. But that also helped me because he's got 20 years worth of experience in his field. He's had his company for 20 years, and he's been working with manufacturing for 20 years. And he just took me around, introduced me to all his friends in small businesses that are in manufacturing, metalworking, coating, plastics, and all that sort of thing. And these are all well-vetted relationships that he's had over the last like 20 years. So it was like my Rolodex just went from nothing to completely full of vetted resources, which was a complete blessing. You know, finding out my credit was wrecked and I wasn't able to invest in machinery, that wrecked everything because I thought I was totally good. You know, I just bought a house. I was doing the normal thing, making my payments. You know, I thought everything was fine. And then I find this out and I'm like, oh gosh, what am I going to do? It seemed like ADD was going to go start just as fast or fail just as start as fast as it started. So thankfully through his introductions, all of our parts, like the skid plate that you have, Andrew, that's all manufactured from our design by a manufacturing firm right here in the Valley. It's all automotive enthusiasts. They build Baja 1000 trucks. They design parts for a ton of full drive vehicles. And this has really helped us, not just in the manufacturing, but it also adds another layer of professional experience to our designs. You know, they're able to review our work before it actually goes into production, and they weigh in
they
from
know what they're looking for too.
Yeah, exactly. They look at it from a production engineering point of view, you know, which helps us keep our costs low. You know, if you change this or if you change this bend a little bit, we'll be able to reduce the cost of manufacturing. So they're very much a partner with us in that aspect. You know, they're looking out for our best interests.
Yeah, because if you do well, they do well.
Exactly.
Yeah. The more stuff you build, the more stuff they build.
Well, we had the plate. It was down here in the studio last week before I installed it, and Brad, you saw it. I mean, it's a beautiful piece.
Yeah,
I mean, absolutely. Like,
sucks it's going in the bottom of a car.
I know. I'm not even saying it because like you're the guest. Like, it is a legit, incredibly nice part. Like one of the nicest parts I've ever bought.
Well, I know without throwing any names out there, you know, you bought the skid plate for the Gallant, and it fit nicely and it worked nicely, but it wasn't.
You could tell
beautiful.
it was handmade.
Yeah, it wasn't beautiful.
Yeah,
this piece came through, and it looks like something. You know, it looks like a J.O.'s part.
Yeah,
you know, it looks really good.
Yeah.
So there's definitely highly recommended.
Perfect. I didn't have to like grind out holes or anything to make it fit. So
yeah, no, you can tell it was built with care and wanting to have the best product out there.
I'm looking forward to that transmission one.
Yeah, you know, that's part of what takes us a little bit of time between each individual thing is because either we spend the capital to pay for the design work, or our local enthusiasts pitch in when they can. And thankfully they're able to pitch in, you know, more often than not. But, you know, if we pay for the design of things, we can speed it up. But if we don't, you know, it takes us a little bit longer. And then also between Adam and a couple of the other guys, they're very much perfectionists when it comes to fit and finish. So they'll bang their head against the wall for a week just trying to make sure that bolt holes are going to be where they're supposed to be.
Yeah, I mean, you expect truck to truck, it's going to vary by, you know, millimeters usually, you know, but it was real close. It was nice. It just bolted right up. Because mine was, what happens is like on these second gen trucks, that skid plate, you have to remove it to do an oil change, right? So over the years, they go missing on these trucks because people go to Jiffy Lube or whatever, and the kid throws it away.
When it was a 10-year-old truck and nobody cared about it.
Yeah. So it's nice to have that be available. I don't have to go junkyard diving to find an original one that's probably all rusty.
Yeah, plus it's nicer and stronger than the original one. Anyway.
Exactly. And being up here in New England,
thing's made out of stainless, so you're not having to worry about corrosion.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a strong piece. There's no question.
Yeah. Which I might not even... so there's another layer to the story, too, is that the truck that I own, I bought from you, Josh. So
that's right.
Yeah, so that truck came from Arizona, and it is, like, so clean. I'm at the point now, I'm still going to undercoat it, but I don't think I'm going to drive it in the wintertime anymore. I think I'm just going to drive Stephanie's old car in the wintertime.
That's okay. Nothing wrong with that.
There's no shame in that. I mean, The worst thing about working on a truck after it's been through the northern winters is, being afraid that you're going to shear off a bolt when you go to break something loose.
Oh, it's not being afraid. It's knowing you're going to shear off a bolt.
Yeah.
It's just that's how it works.
That, and I just don't like. I just hate ruining things with salt. It's just terrible.
Yeah, ruining it, not having fun. I don't mind ruining it in the woods and bashing it off a tree. I just don't want to ruin it with salt.
Yeah, that's well-earned damage, daily driving it through the salt and having it just rot away underneath you. I bought a Montero one time that from the coil spring back on the rear, I took it to the car wash after I picked it up, and I thought, man, the rear of the frame sure does look weird. And I just blasted it with the pressure washer, and I watched the frame disappear, and I could see through the frame. I'm like, oh,
that must have been a Michigan truck.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, it came out of, I think, Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Yeah. We had a friend. He texted me. He was looking at. He found a 2.5 gen. It was like a 98 or 99 rear locker, 77,000 miles on it. It looked beautiful, mint. He went down to look at it. The rear of the frame was just rotted away because it had been used on the coast here, and somebody was towing a boat with it, so they're dunking it in the ocean. So the back half of the truck was just gone.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Yeah, and the guy wanted way too much money with that much frame damage. And I told him, just walk away, man. Like, it's just not worth it.
Now that you mentioned that, the guy that I bought that truck from had a boat in his garage, and it never occurred to me that he was probably backing that boat into the lake somewhere in Michigan and constantly submerging that rear frame. And those frames are corrugated inside to add strength to them, so they'll trap debris and stuff.
Oh, really? That'll definitely do it then.
Yep.
The lakes there are not salt lakes, though, are they?
No, but
it's still moisture, though.
You're adding a lot of moisture.
Yeah, because out here the oceans is pretty much death of all cars. So, if it's not the winter that kills them, it's salt air.
Yeah. So you are out. We've established that you're out in the Phoenix area, and we sort of touched on it earlier. You guys had that huge Mod West, which is like the headquarters of Mitsubishi is in Cyprus.
Yeah, pretty much L.A. Everything over there is L.A.
Yeah, it's like L.A. suburbs or whatever, I guess, if that's what you call it. I don't go out there often enough to really know.
Well, I assume it'd be like
the population density is so dense out there that you walk 3 blocks and you're in another town.
Yeah, it's probably like Boston has like Brookline and Cambridge, but it's all really just kind of like Boston.
Yeah. Oh, it's like here. Our cities are just next to each other. You don't drive between them. But regardless, you guys organized on your forums. You had a bunch of Montero owners show up. And
that was a blast.
Yeah, you did like a bunch of adventuring afterwards. So how was that?
I mean, it was a great time. It almost seemed like it wasn't going to happen, and it was so god awful hot. I mean, Mitsubishi, if for any reason they, tap into their customers and decide to start listening to things like this podcast, guys, don't have that event in the hottest month of the year.
Yeah, Southern California, right?
Yeah, I mean, the first week of July, there was a point where we were crossing through Palm Springs, and there's a microclimate, on the highway because it's a heat island. The concrete's been soaking all day, and it's like 5 p.m. and it's 124 degrees.
Ugh.
Yeah, so we've got guys with us from Canada. Phil had his Pajero Evo, Wade had his Delica, and they're just like, well, how do you get used to this? And I'm like, dude, I'm from Michigan, man. I'm still not used to this. I've been here for 3 years, and I'm still not used to this.
Is that I-10? Is that what that is?
Yeah, I-10.
That's not a fun drive. It's just like long and straight.
I mean, if you're into the movie Mad Max and it's a windy day, then it's a great road for you to drive on. But the rest of the time, if we could just teleport, it would. Yeah. You're not missing anything.
So if Elon Musk to finish his vacuum tubes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the only thing, the only thing that's cool about that, sorry to interrupt, is when you get into Palm Springs, is all the wind farms I find is very cool looking, but that's about it. The rest of it is just like, meh.
I love to see that in any month other than July.
Yeah.
Because when we were looking at that, that means that we're climbing the last little hill that goes into LA. And it's this very, very long but not steep hill. So as we're going up this thing, I've been working on Mitsus for a long time. I know what it's like to have to do a head gasket on a Montero. As soon as that, I had a fully rotted radiator. Everything was fresh. Everything was good. Everything's working fine on the vehicle. But you put 6 hours of driving through 117 to 120 degree temperatures. And that final last climb, I had been running the AC the entire time at full blast. And we're going up there, and I noticed the temp gauge, it usually sits down below half. And it went up about one little tick from where it was. And I'm like, nope, I'm not going down that road. And clicked off the AC for as long as I could tolerate, which is probably like 5-10 minutes, and then clicked it right back on again, and it had gone back down by then. But, the wind farms that's something crazy to see. If you've never seen it before, when you get there, you're like, what is all this? It almost looks alien.
Yeah. Yeah, you
Like
come
an
over,
invasion.
I'm trying to remember, you kind of come over like a hill, because I've only done it in like rental cars. So like whatever brand new rental cars, it's like...
If it breaks, you call Enterprise.
Yeah.
Worry about it later.
Yeah, you can do 85 across the desert and nobody cares.
Throw it away when you're done.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, you kind of come over that hill, and then I feel like there's a couple points where it switchbacks up mountains, like through a couple canyons, if I'm thinking of the right
There's
road. Yeah.
a ton of different ways you can take.
Yeah.
But right after the wind farms is where everything branches off, and you can go in like probably 15 different directions to get where you're going in LA. But on the other side of that, on the east side of that, is the big climb going out of Palm Springs that has signs that say, like, turn off your AC, avoid overheat.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. Going
And that
way.
one snakes up, pretty drastic, and you can see out over the valley.
Yeah, and then you can, I've usually done the drive where I come down that way, and I forget exactly where we turn off, but then we, headed north towards up to Prescott.
Oh, okay.
And that's a fun road that way, because we did it last time I did it was, right around sunset, and I just got to that point on 89A where it goes almost straight up.
Oh, yeah.
Right as the sun was going down.
Those switchbacks are great, yeah.
Those are really fun. Yeah, I think I smoked the CVT in the Kia rental car.
Oops. Call them up. Can I purchase the full insurance now?
That's not my fault. It
Right?
broke. I didn't crash it.
Yeah, no, I love driving out there. I enjoy it immensely, and I can't wait to go back.
Well, hopefully you guys have got a decent turnout for this year's Mitsubishi Owners Day East. We had something like 35 Montero or four-wheel drive Mitsubishis at this event, and last year I think I counted like 3 or 4.
Yeah, I think it was the most they've had, right? And then did they?
Yeah.
They sort of contacted you guys, didn't they? Their PR team, or?
Yeah, they used to have an employee that was doing their social media, and then they outsourced their social media to some other company out of LA. And when all this was coming up, as we were posting about mod and we were tagging Mitsubishi in our social media, respective social medias and stuff, they contacted us. We got a message from Mitsubishi Motors Instagram, official page, and they're like, "Hey, we're interested in your journey to Mitsubishi Owners Day. We'd love to talk to you more about it." And we had a phone conversation about it and let them know what we were doing. And somehow they had the impression that we were a lot bigger of a company than we were. And I don't know if this made any difference into whether or not they continued to pursue it with us, but it was like we exchanged a couple of emails and it just fell off. And, they were advertising the 100-year anniversary vehicle.
Yeah.
Was that there or not?
No, that didn't get finished. That shop that was working on it didn't get it done in time.
We had that discussion about the shop that was working on that in a previous episode, and how disappointed we were that that's the shop that Mitsubishi chose.
I'm not even familiar with them, but just the fact that they weren't able to pull it together in time for mod is like, wow. Do you guys know what the name of that shop was, or
West Coast Customs?
Yeah.
West Coast Customs?
Yeah, he's the guy. He's a TV show. So I mean, you're already. You're going for a guy who's got a TV show, and he's a TV personality. He's not, I don't know. I don't want to say anything bad and somehow, but I can say I think about this guy. I mean, I try not to crap talk people, but they're questionable. I don't know if you've seen like the Will.i.am cars.
No. Actually, yeah, I have the
weird DeLorean thing.
The one I saw, I think, was like half one car and half the other car.
Yeah, well, they're the shop that builds those things.
They built what was it, the Porsche? It was
They did a 356 with a Boxster drivetrain swap for one of the celebrities.
It was for Justin Bieber.
Justin Bieber, yeah.
But it was like
terrible.
a Boxster with a 356 body, though.
Yeah.
It wasn't even a drivetrain swap.
Yeah, they stretched the body over the Boxster, and they built a lot of questionable things. It's always been, remember Pimp My Ride on MTV?
Yeah.
It's the shop that did those.
Oh, excellent! Yeah,
it's a
wouldn't
newer
trust
it's a
anybody
newer
that built
iteration.
anything for Justin Bieber.
Yeah, exactly. It's all celebrity builds. That's what that shop does, and that's why it's always guy rolls in his brand new Lamborghini, and he wants chrome 24s and TVs. That's the kind of shop it is. So, I mean,
there's a Montero guy up in the Bay Area, I think, that builds cars for Guy Fieri.
So he builds yellow GMs.
Yeah,
that's all he owns.
Yeah.
But he's a Montero guy. That's cool, though.
Yeah.
So,
I guess so.
We like him, but we just don't like Guy Fieri. But if I see a Guy Fieri, diners, dives, and drive-ins approved sticker on a restaurant, I'll usually go to the next one.
No, that's not true.
I just don't like his persona. He's an annoying human being.
Yeah. Well, there's a local restaurant here that he went to. What it was previous owners.
What restaurant was that?
The Depot Diner.
Oh, really?
This is real local stuff, but regardless, it's a really good restaurant anyways. You should go there.
Yeah, we get yelled at for talking about high school classes last week. Let's not talk about local diners.
Oh, yeah, I heard that one. I zoned out for a couple of minutes because I had no idea what you guys were talking about.
Yeah, well, some friends were like, that was funny and interesting, and some friends were like, you guys shouldn't talk about your high school experiences.
Whatever.
Yeah, it's whatever. I mean, it's your guys' show. You talk about anything you want.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're on to the next thing.
So after MOD West, what did you guys do for a trip? Did everybody that came with a 4x4 go on the overlanding trip or the trail drive?
Well, we had about 35 Mitsu show up, and or Montero show up, and a number of those guys, they had no idea until like the last minute that anything was even happening. Like, whoa, there's Monteros there. The night before the event, there was tons of people getting phone calls saying, we saw on social media there's a bunch of Monteros there. Is there still like room? Can we get in? And so all these folks started showing up, and we were going around trying to rally everybody up. Hey, come on, go do this trail. And a lot of these guys, they haven't done any overlanding or off-roading or anything. So some of them bowed out, some of them didn't have the time, but I think there ended up being like 12 or 14 of them. And
which is still a pretty good group. I mean,
oh yeah, for sure.
It's tough to manage a trail ride with more than 3 or 4 vehicles sometimes. So that's still a sight to see.
Even getting the local Arizona crew to go out there to begin with. These guys, they don't get a lot of free time. Most of them got full-time jobs and families and stuff, and when they get free time, they just want to spend it off-roading or camping or just being away from all the drama of the city. And the idea of a car show was not really that well received when I got back from Mod last year.
Yep.
It was like, hey, you guys should come out to this thing. It'd be really awesome. And it was like, a car show? We're just going to be overrun by evolutions. Like, it's not, that doesn't seem like a lot of fun. Like, okay, well, so we decided to put together an off-roading camping trip afterwards. And so that way we could kind of, we get a little bit for everybody involved. So some of the guys came only because of the trail. And next year, if there's a Mod West Coast next year, we'll probably attend it, leave earlier in the day, and hit the trail because it's probably going to be more about the camping and more about the Montero mod than it'll be about the actual mod event.
Well, here on the East Coast, we've already taken that experience you guys had and learned from that, and we're doing that similar story. Where
that's great if that can be duplicated over and over.
We're doing the show early in the morning. Then we're going to leave early, do some trail riding, and then everybody's going to camp together overnight, and then break out Sunday morning. So some people are going to stay through Sunday too and do some trails on Sunday too. But
so this is where I'm torn because I love bringing my Galant VR4 to that event, but I've also brought it like 3 or 4 times.
So you bring a Galant VR4, and I bring a Montero. And you just park your Galant VR4 and you ride passenger in the Montero and take pictures.
Yeah, or I could just drive the 99 down.
Listen, I was trying to help you.
Yeah, whatever.
How far is it to drive for you guys?
It's a hike. Yeah, about 6 hours.
6 hours.
Oh, okay. It was about the same for us.
Yeah.
I was going to suggest recruiting more people to drive, but that's ridiculous.
No, it's like it's 6 hours, but you got to go basically through New York City.
Yeah, that's the problem with it.
Ouch.
Yeah. Instead of open desert, it's extreme congestion city.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's worse or not than L.A., but
I would say it's probably equally as challenging as crossing the desert in 120 temps. It's probably going to present its own pitfalls.
Well, the good thing about crossing the desert is the only thing you're really worried about is overheating.
Yeah,
crossing through the Bronx, you're more worried about carjacking. So it's a little different of a story.
Nobody wants an old Mitsubishi except for us.
Yeah, but they're more concerned with the contents of your wallet.
Oh, gotcha.
I've never had problems there.
I haven't either, but there's a lot of stories. So
the toll over the George Washington Bridge now is like what,
$18,
$15. Yeah,
it's $18 now. Yeah. When I went over one of the bridges.
Yeah, what was with your trailer?
I went over one of the bridges in New York. I forget which one it was, and I had my truck and my dual axle, enclosed trailer. And he's counting the wheels and tires, and she goes back. She goes $37.50, and I was like, "What?"
Yeah,
just to drive over this bridge.
Oh, the roads are terrible. Like, where's the money going?
Yeah, well, I was shocked to say the least. I was like, "That's a whole tank of gas. Like, what are you doing to me here?"
Crazy.
I did not budget for $37.50 in tolls for one toll.
And there's no way like you can either go straight through the city or around,
and then it winds up being a 9-hour drive.
Yeah, it's not.
Or 8 hours anyway.
Yeah, it's not super fun. But
you just got to plan it to not be there during rush hour traffic and try
so
to.
how far of a drive is it going to be
Yeah.
from the event to the off-roading? Do you guys
Supposedly
know
not far. I'm not familiar with any off-roading in New Jersey or Pennsylvania.
once you're in the part of New Jersey where it's kind of lined up with Philadelphia, like it's like mid New Jersey, you're out of like the New York City part of New Jersey.
Shore.
Yeah, well, you're not at the shore. You're kind of in the middle. So there's nothing in the middle. They call it the Pine Barrens. So it's like New Jersey's just empty in the middle.
Just pine trees.
Yeah. It's like sandy pines. Like there's just like the gravel. It's like very sandy.
Yeah, my only experience in the woods in New Jersey is when we went to the racetrack down there for the first rallycross event.
Same area.
Yeah, so that was it looked like New Hampshire, but was in New Jersey.
Yeah.
So
Yep. Very.
it should be interesting. I don't know how long of a drive it is. I'm sure it's only an hour or so from the car show is, from what I've been told.
Yeah.
But it should be fun. I know we have at least 6 or 7 Monteros going. So, I mean, it's not 30, but it's also the Northeast. So we don't have as many left.
No.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So
Well, hopefully it's a decent turnout. I mean, even just having less than half of the number, just having any turnout at all.
Yeah, no, and
helps
that's
to
what it's
promote
all
that
about.
platform.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. Promoting the platform and promoting anybody's, small business. And I'll make sure I wear my Adventure Driven Design T-shirt so that everybody knows
Oh,
what's
nice.
going on.
Thanks.
I got it covered in mud the first time I wore it, so I got to keep up the appearances with it.
I don't know what I was thinking, getting those made in white, being that we're all gearheads and we're all going off-roading.
We had that discussion.
I was like, sweet, not another black T-shirt. I have so many black T-shirts.
But we had that discussion because I put it on for that first event. That's the first time I wore it. I put it on for that wheeling event last weekend. And I was like, man, why is this thing bright white? And it was Eric pointed out. He's like, well, they live in Arizona, so everything is white.
Yeah, that was the primary reason behind it, was that, when we're out off-roading, we are oftentimes hoofing it up and down, steep grades, stacking rocks for friends and stuff to help them get up the trail.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's a white shirt, you're more likely to wear it out on the trail, so that when there's photos being taken and stuff, more likely to see
Shows
our
up.
logo.
Yeah. Especially the double XL on my fatness. Very big billboard in the back of the pictures.
Man, I had no idea shirt sizing stuff. I'm just not good with that sort of thing. So the first run I ever made, I think I had like smalls, medium, and larges made, and people were, I was getting messages every single day. Hey, you got extra large? You got double XL? I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I guess it all depends on what you're used to buying. So I'm not a double XL usually. I'm an XL, but sometimes you get a double XL and it still fits, so it's all good to go.
And I'm like a medium, so I have like no real reference of what sizes are.
Right. So thanks for joining us tonight, Josh.
I had a blast. Thanks for having me on, guys.
So you can, you want to plug your company and social media?
You can find us on Adventure Driven Design on Facebook or Instagram. We do have the website Adventure Driven Design, and you can follow that to a forum where we're populating Mitsubishi tech. That's designed to be the end-all, be-all Montero Mitsubishi tech area. We're going to be building a Wikipedia based off of that, so we hope to have a very comprehensive walkthrough on the Montero and Mighty Max platforms. So that's one place to look for us, really good. If you're looking for me, you can find me running around the web as IncorporatedX. And if you're looking for Adam, you can find him as Toasty Montero on Facebook. He doesn't really get too into social media. He's gotten on Facebook, and Facebook has gotten its hooks into him, and it's almost overwhelming for him, but he's having fun with it.
He's on Instagram too, though, is he not?
He gets on and off it. There's only so
Okay.
much of it he can handle.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, the entire Arizona crew is very much away from social media. I've been pushing Kevin. He's one of the guys that has probably the most built Montero, especially he's got all of our components on it. I'm like, man, if you got, Instagram or Facebook, it would really be nice because people are looking for you out there. They always ask about your truck whenever it shows up in photos, and It's like pulling teeth. You can't get him to sign up for that stuff.
Well, some people are about doing it, like in real life, and then some people are like pretending. Not that we pretend, but you know what I mean. Like some people like to show off more than what they actually
we
do.
just throw mud in our trucks and take pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, it's fun. It has its place. And then there's times when it's also fun though when we're way out doing stuff and there's no cell service and you just hang out with each other and ignore the rest of the world. So that's
Yeah, that's takes you back to the 90s. Like what a concept, communicating with the people in the immediate presence.
Yeah, like when we use CBs and trucks to talk to each other while we're off road. Like, oh, this I get it now. This is why our parents were into CBs. Like, this is super easy to use.
Yeah,
it's kind of fun.
And a lot of fun too.
Yeah.
But yes, thanks for joining us. So follow Josh at those places. As always, follow the podcast at Auto Off Topic Podcast on Facebook.
Yep.
Auto Off Topic on Instagram. Where can you find yourself, Andrew?
Find me Raced in Anger on Instagram. I believe I'm also Raced in Anger on Flickr.
Yes, you are.
Yes. It's been a while since I looked at what the username is. I just upload photos there. I added some Climb to the Cloud photos. I haven't posted them to Facebook yet. I got tired the other night and needed to go to bed.
I have seen them. They're good.
Yep. So I've got those are coming. I have a write-up of it coming for Right Foot Down. I'm finishing up a draft. And as always, you can email us, autoofftopic@gmail.com, if you want to complain about anything we said or want to compliment us.
Or even you want to be a guest, give us a buzz, and maybe we'll have you on sometime too.
I did send out some stickers to folks.
Yes, we got a couple more requests for stickers, actually.
Yep.
Josh, did you request any stickers?
I sent my address to Andrew a couple days ago, actually.
Yep.
Excellent.
He missed the first run, so I was waiting for a couple more people to send stuff in. I'm going to do another.
I saw we had our first because we do ask that anybody who gets a sticker, we're not charging you for the sticker or for the postage. If you could just post a picture of it on social media on your vehicle,
and then if you
push stuff. So we got our first picture today, actually.
Yes, and if you use iTunes to listen to the podcast, please rate and review us on iTunes because it really helps. And then of course share it. The podcast. Oops, I just hit the phone.
And as always, this podcast is brought to you by Vintage Imports in New England. And our Instagram page is Vintage Imports NE. And our Facebook page is Vintage Imports New England.
All right. Keep your cars analog.